Episode 12, the Charlie Shrem interview.
Interested in Bitcoin?
Bitcoin is a very vague concept to a lot of people.
Need to know more about cryptocurrency?
We're going to talk about the basics. This is something that people just have no idea about what crypto is.
How about buying, selling, and mining?
Tony, I think that's one of the things that's going to make us a little different from some other shows.
We're getting our hands dirty.
Then listen to Gary Leland and Tony Sakala, better known as the Crypto Cousins, on the Crypto Cousins podcast.
Howdy, howdy, howdy. Welcome to Crypto Cousins. Gary Leland here.
And this is Tony Sakala.
This week's price.
Today's price in Bitcoin is $14,820. Up for the week, $901, or 6.4% since last week.
Okay, so what's going on with you, Tony?
Well, this whole mining thing is taking off, and I think what we're finding is the average person's understanding that mining is something that they can do. And I bump into people all the time at Fry's and other places, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I want to get into mining," or "I have a graphics computer at home or a gaming computer, and I'm doing some mining." And it's an interesting hobby for people because it really gives them an opportunity to just get their hands dirty and really see what it's like to create crypto.
Yes, and I've noticed there aren't many other podcasters, because I listen to a lot of podcasts, that actually mine.
Mm-hmm.
There aren't many at all, and so maybe that's why our Facebook group has so many people asking about mining, because there's no place for them to go to or listen to. Not that we cover it all the time, but we at least talk about it and we at least do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's a good point. Yeah.
So we're trying to keep these shows shorter and sweeter. And if you didn't listen to our last show, we're doing 2 shows a week now. We're doing our regular show. Well, our shows, first of all, we're getting to be over an hour. we don't have time for that. So now we're going to do 2 shorter shows, which makes no sense because it's the same amount of time. But maybe it'll make it easier for you to listen to. But on Tuesdays, we do just a regular show where we talk about whatever we want to talk about. Thursdays are our interview shows. And this week, we are interviewing Charlie Shrem. So since we're trying to change the look of these shows, the layout, make these shows quicker, let's get into the interview before we start. You want me to go ahead and read the bio?
Yeah, go ahead and read the bio.
Okay. For people who aren't familiar with Charlie, he's an American entrepreneur and Bitcoin advocate. He was a co-founder of the now defunct startup company called BitInstant and is a founding member of the Bitcoin Foundation, formerly serving as vice chairman in 2017. He joined Jax as his director of business, that's the Jax Wallet, and community development in December 2014. He was sentenced to 2 years in prison for aiding and abetting the operation of an unlicensed money laundering business related to the Silk Road Marketplace. And he was released from prison around June 2016. I just took that from Wikipedia. So I figured that was the easiest way to do it, was just to copy a third party's bio on there. I kind of... one of those things I just want to say before we get into this, because we're not getting into, in the interview, we're not getting into why he was arrested at all. But he did business with someone who did business with Silk Road, is the way I understand it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He wasn't on Silk Roads doing business directly, but it was kind of like the chain, kind of like in the law, the hand of one is the hand of all.
Mm-hmm.
And so because he did business with someone who did business, I mean, out of his thousands of customers, one of them did business on Silk Road, which was a website, for those who don't know, which we may want to do a show about that someday. Silk Road was a website where you could buy anything.
Mm-hmm.
Illegal weapons, heroin, you could buy anything. And they used the Bitcoin for their money. Tony, that's probably, and I know I'm not saying probably, but that's where people always go in Bitcoin used for illegal stuff from.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they use that as an example.
Because that was the biggest illegal thing there was, and they used Bitcoin. And I think that guy's in jail like forever.
Yes. That's
he's never getting out.
He's appealing to the Supreme Court, in fact.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is about Charlie, so that's a scoop on Charlie. If you're not familiar with him, like, he was there in the first days of Bitcoin, and his BitInstant was pretty smart. I think at the time, because people were having to transfer their Bitcoin to buy Bitcoin took a couple of days, and Charlie came up with the idea of making Bitcoin available and holding it, and you would buy it from him, and then he would bring it back and replenish his wallet, basically. So you got your Bitcoin a lot quicker, and is that what it amounted to?
Exactly. Well, it was a great idea because it filled this market need that people wanted their Bitcoin immediately, and so he created the business for it.
BitInstant. He was also partners with the I always think I'm saying this name right. Is that Winklevoss?
The Winklevoss.
Winklevoss twins, who are now the first Bitcoin billionaires.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him about that during the show. Well, let's get to the interview. Well, Charlie, thank you for joining us on the show. We're really excited to talk to you. You have lots of great information. I've watched so many other interviews you've done, but before we go, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to come on the show today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
One of the things I'm going to get right into it here. One of the things I watched an interview with you with Anna Sale, which I thought was just a great, great show. And you talked a little bit about while you were in prison. And I don't want to get into that a ton, but I do want to get into a story you talked about with packs of mackerel and how packs of mackerel in prison became a currency. Because I think that has so much relevancy with how actually Bitcoin can have a value or seen as a value. Would you mind explaining that and going over that?
What I learned in that situation was that something that has value at its essence is really anything that people believe has value. So in the absence of a money, a unit of value as you and I know it, like cash or a checkbook or even like digital money in prison with smartphones, something needed to fill its place. And as human beings living in a market, even though it's prison, we're still living in a market where humans can provide goods and services to each other. There needs to be a medium of exchange. We can go back to barter, but no one really uses barter anymore. It's very primitive. Barter can't be used as a store of value. It can't be used it can't be divisible. Also, with barter is that something that's valuable to me may not be valuable to someone else. For example, if I have a pair of headphones and I want to trade it for a piece of chicken, a pair of headphones may be valuable to the guy who's selling me the piece of chicken, but it may not be valuable to someone else. So over time, the market inside federal prison had developed a medium of exchange, store of value, which were these packets of mackerel. And essentially,
now this is a fish you eat. This is a mackerel fish you eat.
Yeah, you ever go to the supermarket and you can buy like single packets of tuna fish? They sell them like it's like $1.50, and you just open up. It's shelf stable, so it doesn't need to be refrigerated. You open it up, and you can eat it straight out of the bag, and it's got 20 grams of protein and like 200 calories, and you can live off a few of those a day. It's got everything you need. So but instead of tuna, mackerel was the store of value here. The reason I think people like mackerel better was because it has a lot more texture than tuna fish does. Tuna fish is very kind of just like a paste. It's got texture to it, whereas mackerel are kind of like chunky fillets. You can bite into them. They got a little bit. They got a more texture to them. They don't just break up like if you put it in soup or rice. You can cook mackerel a lot better. And what happened was there wasn't really many people who didn't like mackerel. I would say most of the inmates would eat it. So it was always something that was in high demand. And because of that, it became a really good store of value. I can hold it knowing that if I ever need to trade it with someone for something, then someone would take it. Most people would take it. And if that person didn't take it, someone else would trade it for me for something else. And because it became that store of value, it also became like a really good transactional currency as well. And people started pricing things in mackerel because the price was relatively stable. It never really changed. Also, the rate of inflation of mackerel pretty much stayed the same. It never really changed at all.
What would be an example of what you could get and what it cost in mackerel?
A haircut would cost you like 2 mackerel or 3 mackerel, depending on who's doing it. Having someone personally train you in the gym would cost about 5 mackerel a month. Someone to fix your headphones. Someone could cook you dinner, iron your clothing.
So there's a whole ecosystem.
Yeah. What had happened was also you could only go to the commissary once every week, every Tuesday, and it was a limit to how much you can spend. It was like a certain amount of dollar limit and how much you can buy. So like you could only buy 2 jars of peanut butter or 10 mackerels or whatever. That's when the inflation rate. So what had developed in there was stores, kind of like we call them Walmarts. And these were people who stocked some of the most popular products on demand and stocked them in their lockers. And they acted stores. You can go anytime during the day or night and buy things from them. You want a cold soda? You can get a cold soda. And these are people who are stores, and they accept a payment in mackerel. And they price their things in mackerel. And they would sell it for a premium.
So that's just crazy to me. I mean, not being in that situation. I mean, it's not really crazy. That's the wrong term for it. That's just something I would have never thought about, that there would be a whole economy inside the prison off of something as simple as that we see simple when we're here, but as mackerel, packets of mackerel. Now, I had heard you talk about how the whole mackerel system just fell apart because of basically government interference.
Yep.
And that was, the prison gave away a lot of mackerel.
Yeah, well, they didn't give it away. You had to buy it.
Well, I thought someone left prison and left all their mackerel on the table.
Well, that was a different type of mackerel. So continuing with the story, what had happened was over time, excuse me, these mackerels expire and people can't spend them anymore. You can't eat them anymore. But so instead of them losing their value altogether, an alternate currency came into existence called the money mac. And these were essentially expired mackerels that people would trade with each other, and they held a value of like 75% and of the original. So there was 2 currencies. There was the eating mac and there was the money mac. And the money mac was something that had no utility. It had no like edible value. You couldn't eat it. It had no protein. It had no intrinsic value, some would say. But it only acted as a transactional currency because everyone believed that it should.
Wow, that's fascinating. So you ended up with something that you really couldn't eat. There was no useful intrinsic value, but still, because of the belief system around those mackerel became a money system. It's fascinating.
Yep.
Hey, how did you first find out about Bitcoin?
I was in an IRC room when I was a kid, and someone started talking about it, just like as a joke. And I looked into it, and I was I found the cypherpunk archives of Satoshi, who was still around at that point, talking about it, and I just started reading, and I thought it was really cool.
So do you have any thoughts on who Satoshi is?
It's probably a group of people, just from that's what I think, at least.
How did you come up with the idea for BitInstant, which I think was a really smart idea?
There was no really easy way to buy and sell Bitcoin back then. There was no one. People were like really interested in it as like this fun science experiment type of thing, and there was no easy way to get it. You know, small amounts, like even $1 worth, so you get like a 2 Bitcoin for $1. There was no real easy way to do that. So we figured out a way. My partner and I figured out a way to make it really easy for people to buy and sell Bitcoin, and it was just going to be like this side project. We didn't think it was going to actually make us money. Like the site was really ugly, but then it just kind of took off.
And I guess your partner was Eric Voorhees?
No, Eric was our second employee. He was the chief operating officer, but Gareth Nelson was the founder, my co-founder with me, lives in the UK.
So go ahead, Teddy.
So Charlie, given that we have limited time, is there something specifically that you're excited about that maybe you just launched, or something that you wanted to share with us?
Yeah, so I've been on Twitter a lot, and there's been a lot of like scammers and people claiming that they know all about cryptocurrency, and they're these cryptocurrency experts, and they're shilling a lot, and they're telling people to buy these tokens because they're going to go up. But really, what a lot of these people are doing is that they're buying a bunch themselves, and then they're shilling it to all their fans and claiming to be crypto experts, and a lot of people are going to get wrecked by that. In the stock market world, if you're gonna be a financial advisor and talk about a product, and sell it to someone, you have to disclose if you actually own some or not. And so I decided to launch a company called CryptoIQ.co, and CryptoIQ.co is is a company where we charge people about $50 a month, and they get access to daily crypto newsletters that I write. My team of analysts, we have investigative journalists, private detectives that we've hired, and we have a great team here in Southwest Florida. And I disclose all my holdings. So if I'm talking about, the whole team does actually. If we talk about a product, we'll write a whole paper on it. We'll interview the team, and we say like, okay, I own this much of it. Like I'm telling you straight up, and this was my entry price, and we disclose everything, and we don't have to, but we do it because we're trying to be responsible, and I rather people who want to get involved in crypto understand what they're really getting involved in before they just buy it. So I don't send out an alert like buy.
Yeah, I think
I write these long, newsletters and articles like why this is cool, what we like about it, and why we're buying it. And if you want to buy it or sell it or whatever you want to do, then that's what you want to do.
Well, I think we should subscribe, Tony.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we run a Facebook group. We have like 500 folks in the group, and one of the biggest questions is, so where do I go? What are the new icons? Well, who do I trust? And it sounds like you're filling that need immediately.
Yep, exactly. That's what we're doing.
Hey, I saw you on one of your shows. You said, and we'll put the link to that for everybody listening in the show notes because we're going to subscribe.
Crypto IQ.
I saw on one of your shows you said, this isn't a quote exactly, but it's about what you said, and I didn't understand what this meant. I was hoping you could expand on this. You said the Bitmain crew are trying to keep the price of Bitcoin as low as possible. Can you expand on that?
I'm sorry. What was the question?
It from what I got out of it, it said the Bitmain crew are trying to keep the price of Bitcoin as low as possible.
Back then, yeah, I think that they're just accumulating a lot of Bitcoin.
Who is the Bitmain crew? I'm not familiar with that term. I'm sorry, I'm not an expert. We use this show for learning, and our followers learn from us.
The Bitmain crew are the whole company behind Bitmain miners and the Antminer and that whole mining pool. Yeah.
And so you're thinking they're trying to keep it low so they can get more of it?
At that point, yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then I have another question. I'm really curious. How was it like working with the Winklevoss twins?
Oh, they're nice people. Smart businessmen.
Mm-hmm.
And do you have an opinion on the whole Bitcash, Bitcoin, Voss saying it's going to take over, it's going to become Bitcoin? I was really curious.
Well, Bcash is just kind of like it's like a knockoff, like a cheap knockoff of Bitcoin. And that's kind of stealing the Bitcoin brand in a way. I call it Bcash, not Bitcoin Cash, because you're using the brand you're bouncing off the brand of a product that you don't support. So it's like me saying, you know what, I like Apple products, but I want to have my own version of Apple products. So I'm going to make a cheap knockoff of the iPhone and call it iPhone Cash or something, something stupid like that. That's essentially what it is. There's no actual value to it except for that people believe, the few people that are holding it believe it have value. There's no transaction volume. No one accepts it. No one's using it. Anything like that.
You recently tweeted that it had the Dogecoin is beating Bitcoin Cash in on-chain transaction volume.
Yep.
Nothing but marketing gimmicks and stock buckets.
Exactly.
In my notes, I have Bcash written. I don't know why I said Bitcoin Cash. I have, what do you think of Bcash? And then I say, because we usually call it Bcash on the show also. So I think that's kind of interesting. So what do you think is I'm not asking for an exact prediction, but what do you think Bitcoin, where do you think it's going in certain time frames? Do you have any ideas? I'm not asking for an exact prediction, but do you think it's I think
Bitcoin is going to continue to appreciate consistently over the next years. You're going to see things like we just had, like you're going to see epic 50% corrections. You're going to see, people are going to get wrecked, and you're going to see stuff like that, It's the same thing that just happened. It price at 19,000, then went down to 12. People who were calling me for weeks telling me not to, they were telling me I should buy. And I'm like, guys, don't buy into a bubble. Wait. And then the price dumps. And I said, here's your entry price. Here it is. If you want Bitcoin, this is the time to have it. And they're like, no, it's going away. And now it's back over 16,000 again. So I give up.
Is that the kind of information we'd get from your newsletter?
Yes, you would actually. When the price was dumping, I sent out a newsletter saying, don't touch your Bitcoin. Don't touch it.
Well, that would have been a good advice for a lot of people. When I first got into this, everybody I knew said, I know so many people who've lost money in Bitcoin. You're crazy to get into it. And I said, well, since Bitcoin is the highest it's ever been ever, how could they lose money?
Yeah, true story.
Hey, I saw your on banking on Bitcoin. you're showing there about the early community in New York with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
What was that kind of like? I mean, it just looked like it was just a group of people that just were all on the same page, kind of like a family to a degree. Am I seeing that correctly?
Yep, it really was. The Bitcoin space was really crazy back then. It was such a little community, and everyone was like, it's still in some ways is. I think still in a lot of ways is like, still like a small community if you look about like who's really involved. And so like, but back then the price was very low and there was no fighting and no one really like, was like hating on each other on Twitter or on Facebook or anything like that. And I'm kind of nostalgic for those days, but I mean, Bitcoin grew up, so nothing we can do at this point.
Do you think New York hurt itself by making all those laws governing Bitcoin?
I don't know. I think New York in general is a hard place to innovate. I think in general, like crypto or not crypto, it's just a hard place to innovate. So people don't, you figure it out the hard way that people just don't want to be there. It's just what it is. I don't think it's crypto related. I think it's technology related. And so yeah, it's very expensive. You got to pay to play in New York.
So did you just get married?
I did. I got married. Yeah, my wife and I got married in September.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, I told my wife I was interviewing you, and I told her, I was just telling her some background history because she's not really that in depth in the Bitcoin or crypto or anything about it. And I was telling her that she goes, "Did he have a wife or kids? Anything when he went to prison?" I said, "Well, he had a girlfriend." She goes, "Oh, I assume he left her. She left him." I mean, I said, "No, she didn't. She stuck with him, and I think they're married now. So I think they must have a pretty strong relationship."
We have our relationship is super strong, and it's built on not just the physical, but also like the emotional and the psychological. Because for that 18 months, we couldn't physically be together. So you have to like force yourself to learn how to love each other through talking and writing. Actually, you can only spend 10 minutes a day on the phone. You only get 300 minutes a month of phone time. Your communication is solely by the prison email system or actual letters.
So that made it even stronger. So y'all have a great relationship.
Yep.
Yeah, that's great. Hey, I got one more question for you I want to ask, because I get asked this a lot. I have people message me asking me this, and I would like to just hear your thoughts on this. Like last night,
sure,
Bitcoin in the U.S. was breaking 16,000. It's 16,100. But at the same time, in South Korea, it was 20,000 U.S. dollars.
It's like, well, you have to. Okay, so the reason that you think that, most people think that is because of a lot of it is for the dollar, Korean won exchange rate. So like if you look at TradeBlock and you look at the price of Bitcoin in China, there's two rates. There's the Chinese government rate, and then there's the real rate, which is if you actually wanted to go and exchange as many dollars as you want for renminbi and then back and forth. And it's a very different rate.
So that's not a real picture, because someone was telling me last night, I'm trying to get an account over there so I can buy this. And he had this big plan. He was telling me how he was going to buy it over there, sell it over there, buy it here, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I don't think it's that easy, or everybody be doing that, dude.
No.
Charlie, you're also the founder of the Bitcoin Foundation. You want to talk about what's going on there?
I'm not sure what's going on there. I was the vice chairman and the founder for the first 2 years, and the nonprofit is its own entity, so I don't really get involved much anymore. I don't think the early founders do either. It kind of took off on its own thing, and I'm happy it did.
Well, is there anything else? I know you gave us a certain amount of time, and I think we're hitting that, and I don't want to be here making you have to say, "Hey, I got to go, dudes." So is there anything before we end this that you want to make sure and get out there, or how people can reach you or anything like that, where they can follow you?
Just follow my Twitter. It's Charlie Shrem, and that's really it.
Well, we appreciate you coming on the show, Tony. You got anything you want to add?
No, that's it. Thank you for your time, Charlie.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. And I think you'll be at the Super Conference in Dallas in February?
Potentially, yes.
So we're going to be there set up. They've given us a space for our video interviews. So if we see you, we may come over and ask you if you can give us 5 minutes for a quick video interview.
Sure. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Thank you,
Thank you,
Charlie.
guys.
Yeah, we appreciate your time. It was very nice of you to do, and good luck with your future, and congratulations on your new wife.
Thank you. I'll let her know. Have a great day. Bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed today's interview. I enjoyed talking to Charlie. That was pretty interesting. I enjoyed the fish packs, the money bags.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, I didn't realize that even when they were expired, you could not eat them. There was still a value held for those.
And I think that really shows the value, the possible how Bitcoin can have value. It's a perceived value.
Exactly. It's what we believe has value.
People always go, you can't do anything with that. You can't do anything with fish that are mush in a packet. It's a good example.
Yeah. You can't really do anything with a piece of paper except burn it, and it'll warm you up in the winter.
Hey, yeah, that's for sure. That's sure. Hey, anything else you want to get into before we get out of here? We're trying to keep these shows shorter nowadays.
I think that's it. So, yeah, folks can call us at 747-777-9471 and leave a message. And if your question is interesting, we'll play it on the show.
On Tuesday's shows.
And
also, don't forget to check out the Super Conference. Use our affiliate link, cryptocousins.com/super. Check out our Facebook group or page. Just go to Facebook and search Crypto Cousins. Will come up. And if you're listening to this on a website, please go to subscribe to the show so it can come straight to you instead of you having to come to the show. If you have an iTunes device, cryptocousins.com/iTunes. Or if you use Spotify, cryptocousins.com/Spotify. Or if you use Google Play, cryptocousins.com/Android. Or if you use anything you want to use, cryptocousins.com/ that word will get you to our site.
That's a great way of doing it.
It's an easier way to do it for me than listing all those. But until Tuesday, unless you have anything, that's it for me.
That's it. We'll see you Tuesday.
Thanks for listening, guys. Adios.
Thanks for listening to the Crypto Cousins podcast. Please share this podcast with anyone you know that is interested in cryptocurrency. Your friends can subscribe on iTunes at cryptocousins.com/iTunes and on Android at cryptocousins.com/play. If you want to know more about Tony or Gary, just go to tonysakala.com or garyleland.com. Make sure and join us on the next episode, and thanks for listening. The Crypto Cousins podcast and information in the podcast are not intended as investment advice. Cryptocurrencies are risky. Never invest more than you can afford to lose. Always seek professional advice before making any investment. Investing in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies may present tremendous risks. Please understand that you are using any and all information